Okay, sorry for the background noise. I'm sitting in my kitchen. I'm by a window, so it's gonna be some background noise. But I'm doing this video today because I did a video some time ago. During the Antonio Brown situation, after he exited Pittsburgh and went to Oakland, and the reports about him sexually assaulting a trainer and doing some other inappropriate shit to other people apparently, and which I called bullshit on it, which I still think is bullshit. I think people at this point have resigned in the fact that it's true, and now he's just trying to redeem himself. But I called bullshit, just like I called bullshit on the Deshaun Watson thing. I think these stories are propagated for character assassination purposes. I don't think that these things actually are things that are happening. There's no way you sexually assault 22 women and this thing goes unreported or unseen or whatever for years and nobody knows anything about it. Nobody says anything to anybody. There's no way. I mean, Jesus Christ. 22 women, bruh. There's no way. So I call BS on that one as well. But when I did the video on Antonio Brown, I was laying out many of my theories, what I thought, and I was putting out a lot of different smoke signals and a lot of different opinions, and I just didn't believe it, and I thought that it wasn't Antonio Brown that was the cancer in that locker room. I thought that locker room was the cancer itself, and it had a habit of twisting players. I still think that locker room is incredibly twisted. And one of the biggest reasons is because of Ben Roethlisberger and his ego. But since Big Ben is close to being out the door, maybe at some point in the near future they can get that. Once Roethlisberger's gone, once Tomlin's gone, maybe you can start getting. I don't know. Maybe you could start rebuilding it. Making it more of a positive environment. But I think as long as those two guys are there, it's still going to be the same shit that it's been for the last 15 years. Okay. I think Mike Tomlin is a great speaker, great orator. I think he has it down. He has down the different statements, the different quotes, the different things that he's going to say. And people praise him for these things. But I think along with that, this dude knows how to talk. He knows what to say to the media. He knows what sound bites to give. He knows what to say. And never have I ever seen a coach intentionally that's still working at their job give sound bites that is potentially destroying the locker room as far as the trust. Because then that would be, one thing will lead to another, and that coach will probably be gone pretty soon. So usually when coaches give sound bites about the locker room, they express the notion that nobody knows what's going on because nobody else is in the locker room besides the people that are actually in it or have been in it. Nobody understands, nobody knows anything, so you're just speculating. That's what they say. And it's a good point because nobody, unless you've been in the locker room, nobody really knows. But I called it. I think that locker room is a cancerous locker room. I think they have no order. I think they have no structure. I don't think Mike Tomlin runs that team. I said this before. Ben Roethlisberger runs that fucking team. And for anybody to think otherwise, prove to me that Ben Roethlisberger is not the guy in that fucking place. Below the fucking owners, below the shareholders, below the people that own the team, Ben Roethlisberger is a strong number 2. And it ain't even close, and Tomlin is nowhere near the top. Any coach after Cowher left, any coach put in that position, well, you know what? After Cowher, I wouldn't be surprised if Cowher didn't want to retire. I wouldn't be surprised. Dude just won a Super Bowl. He just won a Super Bowl in 2005. I would not be surprised if Bill Cowher did not want to retire. He was actually forced out. And why would he be forced out? It's kind of like the situation in Golden State, but slightly different because before Mark Jackson was forced out, they didn't win the title. They were close. They were like every year, man. They kept getting closer and closer, and it was like they were close to the top. But before he was able to complete the job, they got him out of there and they brought somebody else in. And I don't care what anybody says. I mean, there are stories out there that says that Mark Jackson's approach to how he ran a team, how he put the lineups together, it was detrimental. They probably wouldn't have won, or it would have come at the cost of certain things. They had to get him out and get somebody else in that was willing to listen to a lot of the advice that Mark Jackson was supposed to be getting that he wasn't listening to. And they thought that he was, you don't go from a team like Golden State was in the late 2000s to early 2010s, where they were like at best like a 25 to 35 win team every single year. You don't go from that, and that's being generous. You don't go from that to a 50 win team, okay, over the course of less than 5 years, and you're on the verge of something special if you're not doing your job right. If you're not doing your job right, there's no way those things happen if you're not doing your job right. I think Mark Jackson was doing a phenomenal job. And before he was able to finish the job and, complete the job, I think that they got him out of there. One of my reasonings, and this is just one I'm throwing out, one of my reasonings is that Steve Kerr, when he was a player, was a phenomenal three-point shooter. He was a phenomenal three-point shooter. And where the league was going, Curry was supposed to be... Well, I think Curry wasn't supposed to be the face. I think that kind of threw things for a loop. But what I think he was meant to do was introduce the game to a more perimeter-based game. It was supposed to take away from the mid-range, take away from the post play, and it was supposed to lead the league into the the perimeter game where you're just threes are the thing. And I think Steve Kerr adopted it. Well, Mark Jackson wasn't that kind of player. Mark Jackson was more the facilitator. He was more the point guards run the offense. The point guards set up the other guys. The point guards take whatever shots are afforded to him. But his main goal is to play defense, play good defense, but set his teammates up to get going. And that would have been counterintuitive to who we know Curry, who Curry is now, who we know Curry to be now, is the opposite of what Mark Jackson was preparing Curry to be. And Curry would have been more of like a Steve Nash of sorts. He would have been more like a Steve Nash than like a Reggie Miller or something like that. So bringing in Steve Kerr, allowing Steve Kerr to be a yes man, but also surround himself with a bunch of other yes men that, and it's just like, hey, listen, we want you to do this job, you do this job, and you can keep your fucking job. And he was willing to do that. And I don't think Mark Jackson was willing to do that. Mark Jackson is from an era, man, where a man is a man, and you don't tell a man how to do his job. If you give him the job to do, you allow him to do the best job he can do, and you don't tell him how to fucking do it. And since he didn't want to listen, he got him out of there. I believe that. I believe his stubbornness is what got him fired. But I wouldn't call it stubbornness. I would just call it pride. I mean, because when you're an artist, and in most of the work where you're trying to mold something, you're an artist. Even if you're not painting, even if you're not sculpting, you're an artist. Because your time and your work manifests itself physically to where people can see it and go, this is his work. You're an artist. He was an artist. And any artist would know, you do not come between an artist and their work. You don't tell an artist how to feel. You don't tell an artist what to think. You don't tell them what to do. You let them go through their process and do their job. And Mark Jackson was against that. Now I say all that to say this. I believe Cowher was pushed out. And they brought Tomlin in because Tomlin was somebody that was easy to control. Many black coaches didn't really get opportunities like this, especially with franchises that just experience immediate success. Well, not immediate success, but has already experienced success. So you bring him in, he's already in a win now position. Many black coaches don't get those opportunities. You know, that's part of why I'm making a correlation between the Pittsburgh job and the Golden State job, is because Steve Kerr came into a situation that was already built up. This team was on the verge. And they just needed the extra push. Now, I'm not trying to take anything away from Steve Kerr. I think that push that he provided them, like Mark Jackson gave them the ball movement, the defense. He taught them how to play together as a team. And what Steve Kerr added was the brilliance of his perimeter game and how to set each other, how to set up the 3-point shots, how to get the offense going, perimeter oriented. Like, I think that with both of those coaches, it allowed it to grow into something special. But Power was moved out to bring in Tomlin, because Tomlin was a yes man, but he was also a phenomenal speaker. So when people listen to this man talk, it's almost like listening to Martin Luther King talk. I would assume. I mean, everybody's hanging on to every word this guy says. Okay? But he is nothing more than a puppet. He's a yes man. All right? What they tell him to do, he has to do. What Ben wants them to do, they have to do. Like, I don't know, man. I think that locker room is a lot more insane than people are willing to admit. Now, the reason why I have this up in the background is Pat McAfee show. All right, this is my problem with the Pat McAfee show. Now, when I first watched the Pat McAfee show, I loved it. I mean, I watched it every fucking day. I mean, it was a breath of fresh air. They're cursing on there. They're giving their takes, and it's like, damn, this feels good, man. It actually feels like a bunch of men sitting around talking sports. That's what I'm used to. You know, that's what I'm used to. You don't have any women on there imposing their opinions, and which I don't have a problem with the females having their own opinions, but it's like they come on to already established shows that men help build up, and then they take it over. And I don't like that. Like, if you want women to have their own show, give them their own shit. Let them build their own stuff up. But this show doesn't have any of that, and I appreciate it. Kind of like Speak for Yourself. I appreciate that. Because growing up, when I was a kid, man, it was me and many other young boys and grown men talking sports, man. Like, this is what we would do. So, you know, it was nice that this show afforded that. But the more that I watched it, the more I realized Pat McAfee is very biased. And you can't trust, to be honest, you can't trust anybody that is not yourself. Sometimes you can't even trust yourself, but you definitely can't trust a news source, in which they are a news source. You can't trust a news source that has biased agendas, that has biased leanings, whatever, that you know, has affiliations. You can't do it because you can't trust what they're saying. And I slowly started to realize that Pat McAfee is another one of those guys that have very leaning, you know, priorities, and they will grandstand, and I'm good with that. So I stopped watching the show, but he did this. It caught my attention. So let's listen to it a little bit, man. I've already been talking for a while, 13 minutes, but I had to get that out, man, because it's been a while since I did a video, and I needed to get that out. But let's kind of hear what he has to say real quick, and then I'm done.
Old motherfuckers know a lot more than these current motherfuckers. You have to automatically assume, oh shit, there's some real. Oh yeah. Hey, it feels like there's some real, because Mike Tomlin is one of the best sound bites. Doesn't give up shit. Doesn't say anything about anybody. His players. He is an incredible interview.
Well, let me say this before he finishes kissing Mike Tomlin's ass and then proceeding to apologize and calling himself stupid for not knowing everything. What happened, well, this is from the little snippet that I got. What happened was Ryan Clark was asked a question. He gave a soundbite. Mike Tomlin came out and said something to the effect of, Ryan Clark can comment on our locker room because he's been here. And the only people that can really comment on what's going on here are people that have been here. And I think McAfee said he didn't get the whole quote from what Aditi Kikabwala, I think her name is. She gave the partial quote, which made it sound like Mike Tomlin was reaming the young guys in the locker room because they're new. They don't really know how things work in the Pittsburgh locker room. They have their own way of doing things. And for some reason, I think McAfee thought that Tomlin was alluding to that the young players was trying to change the culture in the locker room to fit more of their style. And then I was wrong, and let me explain this, and then I'm gonna proceed to apologize and call myself a dumbass because I'm stupid. Like, all right, and this is what he does.
Is incredibly entertaining. Him saying something that we read in the tweet from Aditi was very much out of, like, oh, okay, here we go. Like, this is a real thing. So we went on, and we talked ad nauseum about it. This team's dead. Yeah. We even started talking about the TikTok and the dancing on the logos. That's right. Yeah, we did. And everything, and oh my God.
All right, I could respect McAfee more if he didn't apologize. If he said, from the information we were treated with, which we were given, we made assertions. I'm not going to apologize for what I've said. I'm just going to say from now on, we're going to make sure all the facts have been laid out before we comment on anything. You could respect him for saying that. But to go back on what you said and call yourself stupid for giving a take based on what was said, and now you're changing it because of a head coach that is basically forcing you to change it, because this is what Pat McAfee is making it seem like. I mean, he's making it seem like Mike Tomlin came out and directly pointed his finger at McAfee and said, hey, listen, that's not what the fuck I said. This is what I said. Now recant your shit and get it right. Like, this is what it feels like. I can respect the man more if he made a mistake to say, okay, the mistake we made was we didn't wait for all of the facts to be presented before we said anything. I'm not going to apologize for what we said because our assumptions came from the information that was given. Okay? Like, you can respect him for that. He made a mistake, that's fine. But to go back and to apologize to fucking Tomlin, who's Terry, I don't agree a lot with what Terry Bradshaw says, but the one thing I can say I agree with is fucking Mike Tomlin is a cheerleader. And what I get from that, me personally, what I get from that is he's nothing but a mouthpiece. What do you see cheerleaders do when they're at the games? Running their fucking mouth, jumping up and down, dancing around like fucking clowns. This is what they do. This is their job. No offense to cheerleaders, but that's their job. Is to entertain you by making themselves look goofy as shit. That is their job. They are the distraction. They're like the distraction in between the lull periods of the game. And this is what he said about Tomlin. He's a distraction. He's not the guy. He's a distraction. I can tell you who the fucking guy is. Ben Roethlisberger. That's the dude. If you want to dissect what somebody says, don't dissect what Mike Tomlin says. Listen to what Ben has been saying, and then dissect what he said, because that's the guy that runs that shit, man. I'm pretty sure that the owners, when they come down and they talk to anybody, they talking to Ben, bro. I really believe it, man. I believe it. The NFL has really pulled Ben's ass out of the fire, and it's for a reason, man. Okay? Like, I'm just saying. And that's just my opinion. Okay? Nobody else has to adopt my opinion. But that's just my opinion on what I've seen over the course of me watching Ben Roethlisberger be an NFL player. Okay? And their Pittsburgh organization. This is just what I've seen. But Tomlin, man, he's a cheerleader. Terry Bradshaw has that right. He is a cheerleader, and you can't expect too much from him. But people like him because he's black. He's nice. He gives you that. He's like that keep it real uncle that you like to chill and listen to him crack jokes and shit. Like, he's one of those, man. He's one of those.
It's over, and we watched Man in the Arena last night, and a big part of it was Ben Roethlisberger slinging it, and Tom Brady going, nobody knew Big Ben at the time. He was a great player, really good player, coming in his own, all this stuff. And Steelers fans, got a chance to reminisce about the good old days when the Patriots.
Let me say this. Big Ben is one of the most limited quarterbacks I've ever seen in my life that was really good at the job. Like, really good at the job. It sounds confusing, but let me just say, there was only one thing that Ben Roethlisberger was genuinely looked at as being one of the best, if not the best, at doing, and that's put a lot of arm into his passes and flinging fucking lasers all over the field, okay? Not the most accurate passer, not the most dependable passer, but his teams have always been very talented, so... a lot of those mistakes were forgiven because the defenses were so great, the offensive line was so good, and the receivers are usually, when you're playing with Hines Ward, Plaxico Burress, and Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster, a bunch of names, like, not a bunch of names, but a bunch of big names, like, or Santonio Holmes, I'm forgetting people, Santonio Holmes, you see what I'm saying? Emmanuel Sanders, like, you're looking at... You're looking at a lot of talent this dude had to work with, man. And when you had one of the greatest receivers we have ever had the privilege of looking at, which is Antonio Brown, man, Jesus, like, it's not too much that you can say Ben brought to the table other than his fucking sonic boom arm. Like, that's the only thing you can say, man. Sure, he could get out of the pocket, extend plays a little bit. He was a lot quicker than I think some people would give him credit for. Like, I've seen Ben scramble out of the pocket and extend the play like maybe 5 to damn near 10 seconds longer than the play would have been, and was able to deliver a strike downfield. But he was a very limited quarterback, not very accurate, not very mobile. I wouldn't say he's the smartest player. When you have the privilege of only having 2 head coaches and probably less than 5 coordinators, I would say that, and Bruce Arians was one of your coordinators who's the supposed quarterback guru. Like, I think that he has been privileged his entire NFL career. I think him landing, I think if he would have went earlier to any other team, we might not even be talking about Ben Roethlisberger today. But because he went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, which was a team that was already on the verge of being a winner, they were on the verge of being a contender. They just needed a quarterback. Tommy Maddox couldn't get it done. Cordell Stewart couldn't get it done. So many other quarterbacks they had could not get the job done. You had Charlie Batch, who's in my opinion one of the greatest backup quarterbacks of all time, because he just, this dude is career backup. And he played well when he would get his chances, but he just never could be a starter. And he was a backup for so long in Pittsburgh. They needed a quarterback, They needed somebody that was going to come in and shift the tide just a little bit, And Ben was good enough to do that, but he, again, is a limited quarterback that was surrounded by phenomenal talent. And I don't know. I don't have very high opinions of Ben Roethlisberger. Let me just say that. I just don't. But let's finish.
Were worried and thought about them and had to run into them late, and then now you got the coach burying the players and the players talking about the coach, and it looks like they're going to lose for the first time, and Ben's have to retire at some point. And that only happened, so we had to have that conversation.
Had to.
Turns out it wasn't what he said at all.
No, it wasn't.
There was just like 3 words there at the end that were left off that really changed the whole thing, and I have no idea how that happens unless you're purposefully trying to get people to think that there's more drama than there is, or if you just misheard it. I guess if you just misheard it, but goddamn, that tweet it pushed us into it. And
let me say this: there is no way. And to be honest, to be fair, it wasn't even 3 words; it was more like 5 or 6. But there is no way you read an entire quote of what a person says, and you think a certain thing, but then you hear the rest of the quote, which is only less than it is basically a short sentence, and it completely changes your perspective on what you just read. Everything else, like nothing, no 3 words in the English language should ever shift your perspective about a whole paragraph that you just read of what somebody said. I mean, that's a little crazy. And to be honest, what he said wasn't even that polarizing. Like, oh man, those words, it completely shifted what I thought about what he was saying. It doesn't. Basically, what Mike Tomlin said at the end of his sentence was, if you're, for those that are not in the locker room now, that's what every coach says. You ask any coach, do you think the young players have a grasp on, like, ask Bill Belichick, do you think the young players have a grasp on what it took for you, Brady, those coaches, and those former players that left, Teddy Bruschi, Willie McGinnis, Mike Vrabel, Richard Seymour, those guys, Troy Brown, do these young guys understand the sacrifices they made to make it to where putting on a Patriots helmet was such a great feeling? Do you think they understand those things? And he's going to say, listen, I think the people that don't understand what it's like to be in this locker room are the ones that have never been in this locker room and are not in this locker room now. He'll say that. That's a very safe answer. That's a way of not alienating your players that are in the locker room now and not disrespecting the players that came before. That's a very safe way of answering that. That does not shift what the fuck he's saying. Either you understand what he's saying or you just, I don't know, bro. I think that was such a weak move on the part of Pat McAfee, and he almost puts himself in that very weak move argument with Adam Schefter. After Adam Schefter came out and said, I lied about the Aaron Rodgers reports. I lied because we couldn't get the information in time. I needed to say something, so I said any fucking thing that was going to sell what it is I was trying to say, or sell what it is that I needed to sell. And people act like that wasn't a big deal. Announcing yourself and denouncing yourself. Well, no, we gotta say that. Announcing yourself a liar and pretty much denouncing yourself as a credible source is that should be career suicide. But I see Adam Schefter on TV still giving his fucking takes, still giving. Well, I got breaking news here. Like, bruh, why should anybody trust what you're saying? You prove you can't be trusted. Even if he's wrong, and people are wrong. You don't have to be right 100% of the time. But he proved that he lied. So, to be honest, it was a weak-ass move by Pat McAfee. I think it would have went over well if he wouldn't have just apologized. If he would have just said, listen, I said what I said. Now that I've been given more information, what I'm going to do from here on out is wait till all the facts are dropped before I say anything. But it does not change what I said. It does not change what I think. But I won't recant what I said. But I will from now on wait until all the facts have been given. Because to be honest, what he said doesn't change any fucking thing. It doesn't change nothing. Why would Mike Tomlin get out there and say these young players don't know shit? They don't listen to nothing. They don't listen to nobody. Why would he do that? It's not like he's about to leave next week or some shit. Why would he do that? I don't know. That's just my opinion, man. I just spent damn near 30 minutes venting about these fucking Pittsburgh Steelers who I respect the Pittsburgh Steelers organization because I think they're a very fine run organization. There's no way you can accumulate the talent that they accumulate on a regular basis unless you were good at your job. And that organization runs like an assembly line. It does not miss a fucking beat, man. And I respect that. But I think the culture in their locker room is toxic as fuck. I think that Ben Roethlisberger's impact on that organization in the NFL has been toxic as fuck. I don't like Ben Roethlisberger, man. I think he's a sociopath. And the fact that this dude was able to get away with rape and nobody seems to be bringing this shit up now in the land of Me Too and all this other shit. Nobody seems to be bringing up the fact that this dude had a rape charge that just fucking magically disappeared. But that's it, man. I'm done. All right.